Hey everyone, Volty here. We're going to do a bit of a review of the latest points announcement from the 28th of July, so just yesterday. Looks like some really big changes that have come out. So we're going to have a look, read what the committee has said about the points changes, and I'll see if I disagree with anything. Based off an initial review of what cards have been changed, I think this is going to be overall quite a good thing. But we'll see. So let's get into it. So first off, we have White Plume Adventurer going from 1 to 2. I think that's good. I think it's probably not going to see very much play at 2, but I do think it saw a little bit too much play at 1. So on balance, that should be helpful to reducing the impact of initiative. Undermountain Adventurer has gone to 1. It's joined the other 4 drops, so Seasoned Engineer and Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Probably going to be a good thing for the format. Broadside Bombardiers has gone to 1. Now, this is probably going to be the one that we're going to have to read the paragraph for, because I think that might have been... we'll have a read. Nadu has gone to 1, about a couple of months after it got printed, so we'll see what they say about that. Lutri has gone from 2 to 3. Okay. Demonic Tutor has gone down to 2 from 3, and True Name has gone to 1 from 2, with some watch lists. So let's see what they have to say, and we'll go over it. So the initiative mechanic has continued its dominance. Safe to say it's the best of the lot. Accelerated turn 1, and playable off turn 2 off mana docks, cheaper mana cost. Yeah, all very good. White Plume Adventurer introduces the initiative like 11 other creatures, but it costs 1 less. The difference from 4 to 3 is massive, and the difference from an extra turn of the initiative is enormous. I'm really happy with this change, if I'm honest. I think the fact that every time you play against a blue control deck or a blue mid-range deck, and you can play a White Plume Adventurer early, and it resolves, the game's over. If they kill it with a bolt, they're dead. If they kill it with a Fatal Push, they're dead. If they counter it, you move on. Undermountain Adventurer to 1, more talk about the initiative. The fact that it has Vigilance and 4 Toughness is mentioned. Okay, I'm on board with that. I think Undermountain Adventurer was definitely the next best initiative creature. That was unpointed. Ravenloft Adventurer is like okay, and the 1/5 Passageways here is okay, but Undermountain Adventurer is like a real creature. Vigilance Vigilance is a big deal, so I'm glad this goes to 1. I think they might have been a bit overcautious here, adding 2 points to the initiative creatures. Realistically, people are going to be paying 3 out of their 7 points, maybe 4, to introduce the initiative, so we'll see we'll see where they spend the points. Okay. Broadside Bombardiers has just the right combination of keywords and abilities that push it over the edge into pointable territory. Menace plus Boast, Sign of Draco for 14. Definitely some occasions this card feels like a 3 mana 2/2 that should be easy to remove. Unbelievably high highs. Okay. This is really interesting. So the thing with Broadside Bombardiers is that it's a 3 mana play that has the potential to win the game, but it can win the game in a lot of different ways, and I think that's why we've seen it be so impactful across the format. The fact that you can use it to kill creatures, the fact that you can use it to kill your opponent, and obviously there's heaps of other synergies that you can pull off. If you can clone it with Kiki Jiki or Fable of the Mirror Breaker, if you throw something that is Delve or some kind of cost reduction mechanic, you can get in like huge amounts of damage. I'm not on board with this going to 1. I think it was very, very powerful at 0, don't get me wrong. Every deck that could play or could support Broadside Bombardiers should have been, but I think it's okay that we have powerful creatures that require a little bit of effort. You need to have something on board when you play Broadside Bombardiers. It needs to be able to go to combat. So if they kill it, if they counter it, it's not going to do anything. I think going to 1 is cautious. I'm curious to see if anyone plays it at 1. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't see play for a long time. But it might see play at 1. I'm not going to play it at 1, that's for sure. I don't think I like this change. Alright, Nadu has gone to 1, and it is very recently after it got printed, so what do we got? So it's overtuned in just enough ways that we feel pointing it is justified. Pointing a card this soon after release doesn't happen very often. Offers a pretty unique package as a serviceable mid-range threat. People will pay a point for giving their decks this angle attack and will feel good about doing so. Okay, I disagree with this last sentiment. I don't think anyone's going to pay a point for Nadu. 3 mana 3/4 flyer, that's kind of hard to remove, but not really. We've got other bodies that kind of do that. Leovold is kind of hard to kill, for example. And anything that generates value. Eternal Witness, Stoneforge Mystic. It's quite big, and it does have quite a lot of potential to win the game by itself. But I don't know how many people are going to be paying a point for Nadu. Unless it's a very spare point. Not in love with this change. I think this is probably a bit too aggressive. Maybe the committee has seen the impact Nadu has had on Modern, in which case, trying to avoid something silly happening to your format is very reasonable, and the card is good, I just don't think it's a point. Okay. Lutri has gone from 2 to 3. This is a pretty big change because now it puts it at the same level as Luris. Luris is also 3 points as a companion. I like this change. I think paying the 3 points for an extra card, I think Lutri was criminally underplayed at 2, and I think that's surprising considering how much it got played. The card is insane. Companion as a mechanic is the most powerful thing that Magic has ever made. Paying 3 points for a companion is very reasonable, as long as the companion does something. Lutri and Luris both do things, so obviously there's Gigantha and a bunch of other companions that you can sort of make do with, but these were the 2 best companions. I don't know how much Lutri is going to see a play at 3. It's very potent, and it's good with things like Gush and things like Counter Magic. But a lot of the best blue cards that you'd want to pair with Lutri are pointed, so you're going to be running low on points really quickly. You want to be playing Force of Will, you want to be playing Gush for your Lutri, you want to be playing Murktide Regent because it kills people, so suddenly you're running low on points. I don't know how much Lutri is going to see a play at 3. I don't think it'll be none. I think people will pay 3 for Lutri and be okay with it. And I don't know how many people were paying 2 for Lutri that will be upset that they can't pay 2 for Lutri, because it was pretty close to a free roll prior to this, so good change. Alright, Demonic Tutor has gone from 3 to 2. Continue to preference having 2 1-point tutors, however some less popular decks such as traditional Storm or Mono Black might experiment with DT as an option. Okay. I think this is fine. I think it will be fine, rather. A lot of the tutors on the points list are about 0.5 points too much. Vamp Tutor at 3 is horrific. DT at 3 is going to be quite interesting to see go to 2. So DT at 3 was unplayable. No one ever put DT in their deck for any reason. You're better off just playing a bunch of cantrips and the One Ring and drawing cards naturally and finding what you're looking for. DT at 2 gives it a couple of different options now. So if you have the spare points, DT can now be a flexible card for your mid-range deck or your control deck, where you can find the answer that you're looking for. Suddenly you get 2 copies of Damnation, you get 2 copies of Fatal Push, you get 2 copies of the One Ring. I like this change. I don't think it's going to break the format. I don't think D tier 2 is going to be everywhere. There's a very low likelihood that D tier will become a menace at 2, in my opinion. So overall, good change, I think. Okay, True Name Nemesis from 2 to 1 is a big deal. Let's see what they say. So True Name Nemesis, I'm just going to say TNN. TNN is a powerful threat that has fallen from grace or infamy. What once was used to be a mainstay has been relegated to the sidelines. There are still people who play True Name. The printing of pre-war formalware did cause a small uptick in the amount of play this card sees. That's me, by the way. I did that, in case you were curious. There is an article on the website about Jeskai Stoneblade, which was a deck that played True Name Nemesis and pre-war formalware that I played with Kate, who was previously on the committee. Go have a read of it. That was all me. We also acknowledge that the gameplay involving this card is not the most enjoyable. However, we feel these are not reasons enough to justify keeping this card at 2 points. Okay. There is a world where this becomes an auto-include in every blue deck, starts to warp the meta in an unpleasant way, and we review the decision. This is really interesting. True Name was not good at 2. Spending 2 points for True Name is just not a good deal. It loses to Rebs, it loses to Wraths, it loses to Edicts. I think it'll see a lot more play at the start than it should at 1. I don't know how often you should be spending a point on True Name, especially because so many of the blue cards on the point list are really good. True Name kills people. Murktide Region kills people way faster. So, we'll see what happens here. I mean, the fact that it makes creature combat decently difficult for your opponent is, I mean, that is what it is. You can't attack and block, though. You have to give it vigilance with something else, like pre-war formalware. I think realistically, this is going to be self-balancing. True Name is going to start seeing a bit of play at 1. People are going to start playing removal spells that kill True Name Nemesis. They're going to play an extra Wrath in the sideboard. They're going to play an extra Edict. And it'll drop off a little bit. I don't think this is going to break the format. I think it will see a lot more play at 1 than it ever did at 2. And I think that's okay. You know, it's not the most broken card that you can play for 3 mana. It's pretty close, but it is what it is. Alright, the watch list. Tinker depointing has produced exciting results. Tinker fetching up Citadel, sure. We continue to keep Citadel on the watch list for now. Sure, I'm on board with this. This card's messed up. It's like a York Bargain or a Grizzlebrand or any kind of big card draw engine, except you can tinker it out. You can cheat it out in a lot more ways. And it requires a little less of you when you're going off to win the game. So I'm okay with this. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Yeah, it's definitely the best, the second best initiative creature. It's definitely the best 4-drop. I think leaving Seasoned Dungeoneer at 1 is perfectly fine. I think having it on the watch list and keeping an eye on it is pretty reasonable, especially now that White Plume has gone to 2. With White Plume at 2, Seasoned Dungeoneer should see a little bit more play in the white decks as a way to generate the initiative if they weren't already playing it. But I don't think this card is going to see any play at 2, so we'll see what happens. Okay. Flage has been added to the watch list. Okay. This isn't going to stay on the watch list. This card is not going to get pointed. It's good. It's much better than Kroxa. It's much worse than Uro. And you have to keep in mind with these escape creatures that they give you inevitability. The 3 escape creatures, they give you some kind of inevitability because you have a threat that you can play at any point in time. However, in order to get Flage in your graveyard, especially because you're in red and white at least, you're probably going to have to play the front side, which is 3 mana for a Lightning Helix. That's not a good card. Uro, 3 mana to draw a card, gain 3 life, and put a land into play. It's a Growth Spiral staple to a Healing Salve. It's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. But there are way more ways to put an Uro in your graveyard because you're in blue and green. There are way more ways to put Croaker in your graveyard because you're black. Flage being red and white is going to force you to pay the upfront cost far more often, which is going to make the card worse. You're also going to be playing less things that go to the graveyard naturally, unless you're playing Jeskai, because you won't have things like cantrips, you won't have things like discard spells. You'll have removal spells, obviously. You've got your Bolt, your Plow. I don't think Flage will make it to 1, so putting it on the watch list is fine. If it leaves the watch list and goes to 1, I will be shocked. Uro going from 2 to 1. I disagree with this. At least the change hasn't been made. I think Uro is dramatically underplayed at 2. I think the people who question why Uro is 2 points have not played enough of the card. The card is completely insane. It single-handedly changes the matchup spread for every deck that can play it, and it warps games around it very, very easily. If your opponent can't exile your Uro from your graveyard or from play, you will win any kind of matchup where they're not going to blow you up with a combo. Uro is cracked, so maybe we need to see more people playing it at 2 and doing well. Maybe it'll go to 1 and we'll start seeing it show up a lot more. I'd be a bit scared of that. We'll see. Fury has been removed from the watch list. I think this is good. Fury's not broken. Fury's not worth 1 point. Fury is worse than Broadside Bombardiers. I'll keep it that way. Like, excuse me. Fury's good. It kills creatures. It makes small creature strategies very difficult to use. It's not worth a point. You're down a card just to cast it. If you pay 5 for it, you're getting a 3/3 double striker, which is not an incredible rate. The fact that you can buy Lutri to guarantee a red card in hand is a big deal, but now Lutri is at 3 points. Removing Fury from the watch list. Good. Channel has been removed from the watch list. Sure. This is fine. The channel decks aren't good. People who play Channel Mirror don't win big events very often. It doesn't get used in a fair manner, which is kind of disappointing, because Channel is a really sweet card. If you're casting Channel as a ritual to cast 2 big spells that are regular spells, it's actually really potent, rather than forcing you to fill your deck with garbage. You've got, 7 Chromatic Stars and a Lich's Mirror, just to make this one card work. I don't think Channel is going to... I don't think it's going to get D-pointed anytime soon. I think it's fine. The fact that DT is now 2 points is of note, because DT Channel is one of the easier ways to find it. But I think it's fine. Alright, that looks like everything. So, yeah, that's overall good points update. I don't disagree with any of the big changes. I do think there are going to be quite a lot of different impacts across archetypes that I'm not seeing right now. I think some of these changes are a bit overcautious, and I would prefer the committee be overcautious rather than undercautious. We've seen how WotC decides to not make changes and not ban cards early, which is very impactful. Modern's kind of dead right now. It's just messed up. The latest SCG had 5 copies of Nadu in the top 8. Yeah, overall, good stuff. No complaints here. Please leave a like if you like the video. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me. And if you want to leave an interesting comment your favorite pointed card that you feel should be changed. Alright, have a good one. Volty out.